Mój poruski jazyk niemnoczka. It's not
It's perfect Russian.
No.
Yeah. When did you learn this kind of words in Russian?
In Russia?
Yes.
Russians in Russia.
What kind of expression Russia gave you? Did you find something special here?
I feel very at home in Russia. I feel as a Scottish person, I feel completely at home in Russia. I don't know, I know a lot of other Scots who feel at home in Russia, and I know Russians who feel at home in Scotland. We are complete kindred spirits.
We can say that, you have some kind of Renaissance face. Maybe say that your face is fate or your destiny.
Your face, anybody's face, is their negotiation with the world, I suppose. I like the idea of Renaissance, endless Renaissance. It's a good thing.
How did the work with Derek Jarman change your fate?
Aha, well, that was a very lucky stroke of fate, because first of all, because I met a very good friend, and he was my friend for 8-9 years. But he was, to meet him as a film performer, it made a filmmaker of me as a performer, because we worked in a sort of laboratory in a way. You know, we were always working. We made 8 films, I think, in 8 years, at a time when it was very difficult to make films in Great Britain. You know, nobody was making cinema then. It was before a whole explosion. It was before the British film Renaissance. Sometimes the Renaissance is a term that's used to describe something for commercial reasons.
Can you say that you communicated with him somehow?
For sure, we were friends, you know, and friends do communicate by definition. So yeah, we had some kind of communication, and we enjoyed each other's company, which is the best way to make work. To be with people who are companions. But it was a real privilege and a kind of apprenticeship for me.
And we can say that you're kind of a risky person because you very often working with young actors.
That doesn't feel like risk to me. That feels like going where the energy is. When I have worked quite often with filmmakers, either on maybe their first feature film, or maybe with a filmmaker on a film that's taking them like 5 or 11 years to make. Derek Jarman took 11 years to make Caravaggio, for example. Sally Potter and I worked for 5 years to make Orlando. And there's something about the energy that it takes to make these. You know, it's a Sisyphean task to make these sorts of films, and there's something about the collaboration that's required in those projects that I really love. It's very pre-industrial. I'm a very pre-industrial animal.
What is the biggest impression for you, Russian impression, when you were filming in Orlando?
We were in St. Petersburg. In fact, the Russians were the first people to encourage us to make the film, really. We were looking for money to make this film for so many years, and it was only when we started to speak to certain people within the Russian filmmaking that we started to raise money for the film. So it was like a homecoming, really. And even though the scenes that were shot were not set in Russia, they were actually supposed to be in 17th century London. It felt a very natural thing, and I love shooting in St. Petersburg. I would love to work in Russia more.
What period in your life was the most difficult for you to switch your personal life and your life professional?
I don't have a professional life. I only have a personal life.
What was the biggest, the most exciting in film pitch with
Thailand.
We can say that you are the face of the British intellectual cinema.
The what? Say that again. Say it again.
British intellectual cinema. Yeah, the face.
I don't think there is a British intellectual cinema, but anyway, continue. Continue.
Sometimes you playing not a concrete woman, but symbol. And what do you think about this?
Maybe, if that's what you see, maybe. I've never thought of it. I can't waste tape thinking about it now.
Do you have to defend your private life, your privacy, yourself from the influence of your profession?
Well, I don't really have a profession, I mean, it may sound like I'm being flippant, but I only have a private life. I don't live in any kind of public sphere. I work with my friends. Recently, I started to make new friends. I'm here in Moscow for this festival with an American independent film, which I, will tell you about in a second. So I have found new friends, and they happen to be from the west coast of America, but they're my friends. I live my life and I make my work with my friends, so I don't really have anything other than a personal life. It's a deeply personal business. My work is very personal to me. I don't really have a job at all.
Imagine if you were not an actress, whom will you be?
A gambler, a journalist, a racehorse trainer.
And do you think there is something common in all these professions, including the profession of actors?
Yeah, my interest. I'm a little bit of all of those things in a way, in fact. Yeah, I'm occasionally all of those things. Mainly a gambler. Yeah.
What is for you the sense of when you have something to do? When it's just a sense when you
have to do something?
That you have to do something, and it's your
destiny or your no,
like
sorry.
you feeling it.
You should do. Sometimes you don't want to do it, but you
You mean like to make a piece of work? Well, I'm a very lazy individual. I mean, I do honestly believe in a kind of sacred idleness as a philosophy of living, and so I don't really do anything that I don't want to do, ever. So, yeah, I never really do anything I don't want to do.